The earth cracked beneath the feet of the messengers. One after another, they crossed the doors of the house, bringing tragedies that collided with each other.
Fire fell from heaven.
The Sabians attacked.
Your children all died.
Job fell to his knees. He tore his garments, covered himself with ashes, and heaven remained silent while the sand roared like an invisible army all around. But that man was not born in the valley of sorrow. Before that, there was light, golden fields, countless flocks, children smiling around the table. Job was upright, feared by kings, revered by the humble, a man who walked with God. And even when the world collapsed, his lips did not curse the Almighty. But on high, when Job thought his suffering had ended, a voice rose among the sons of heaven.
Touch him, and you will see.
Then the war began, invisible, relentless, eternal, because heaven spoke and hell listened.
My name is Job, and for a long time I was a synonym of justice. I lived in the land of Uz, where the winds blow with force and the heavens stretch as wide as eternity. There I built my house. I had children, I had servants, I had peace. My flocks multiplied through the valleys, 7,000 sheep, 3,000 camels, 500 yoke of oxen. The fields yielded without ceasing. The houses were filled with voices, and the heart filled with reverence for the Most High. My children were always together. They held feasts, went from house to house, laughing, celebrating life. And every time they gathered the next morning, I would rise early and offer sacrifices to God for each one of them. I thought to myself, perhaps without meaning to, one of them has sinned silently in the heart. The fear of the Lord was my sustenance. I did not seek riches. They came as a consequence of honor, of justice, and of the hand of God upon me. When the poor came to the gate, I stood up. When the stranger passed by on the road, there was bread on my table and shelter in my house. But this story did not begin with me, nor with my children. It began in a place where man does not enter, the place of eternal decisions. There was a day when the sons of God presented themselves before the Lord, and among them came the accuser. He walked the earth back and forth, searching the steps of men. And God looked at him and said,
"Have you considered my servant Job? He is blameless, lives uprightly, truly fears me, and shuns evil."
The answer came like a blade wrapped in sarcasm.
Job only fears God because everything goes well for him. You protect all that he has. His life is surrounded by blessings. But stretch out your hand against his possessions. Take away everything he loves, and let us see if he still continues to worship you.
Then the Most High said,
"Behold, everything he has is in your hands. Only against him do not stretch out your hand."
The sentence was given. Silence descended upon heaven. And I, who knew nothing, continued my routine as on any other day. Innocent, grateful, with my heart turned toward the eternal. If I had known what was about to happen, perhaps my prayers would have been different. But perhaps also my faith would not have been faith. It would have been only protection. And what is faith if not to keep trusting when the world collapses? The next morning, everything seemed the same. The sun rose slowly, the servants were in the fields, and the laughter of my children still echoed through the house. The wind was the same, and the earth kept its rhythm. but there was something in the air I could not explain. It was like the silence before the storm. The harvest had ended, and the time of testing was about to begin. Then the first messenger arrived. He ran as if fleeing from his own news, his face covered in dust, his eyes wide open. He stopped before me, almost out of breath, and said,
Fire fell from heaven. It burned all the sheep and the men who cared for them. I was the only one who escaped.
Before he left, a second messenger appeared, shouting,
The Chaldeans came in 3 bands. They took all the camels and killed the servants. Only I escaped to tell you.
With each report, I felt as if the ground beneath my feet was sinking. The flocks were not just wealth. They were generations of labor, sweat, provision for many. And the servants, each name, each face, each life cut down like straw in the wind. And then the last. He walked slowly, without haste, with an empty gaze that spoke everything before words. His voice trembled.
Your children were gathered, all together. A strong wind came from the desert. It struck the house, and it collapsed upon them. None survived.
Those words cut me like a sharp sword. It was as if the air had vanished from my lungs. 10 children, 10 laughs extinguished, 10 empty places at the table, 10 dreams buried under the ruins of a single afternoon. But I did not cry. I did not scream. I only tore my clothes, fell to the ground, and worshipped. I said aloud, as if trying to hold the world together with words, Naked I came from my mother's womb. Naked I will return. The Lord gave. The Lord has taken away. Blessed be the name of the Lord. Pain pierced through me, but I could not blame God. Even though everything in me was broken, something still held me. Faith. Perhaps that was all, and for a time the silence seemed enough. But in heaven, the conversation had not ended. Once again, the sons of God presented themselves before the Most High, and among them the accuser appeared again. And God said,
Have you seen my servant Job? Even after everything he has lost, he is still faithful.
And the accuser answered with contempt,
Of course. He still has his own body. His life is still intact. Touch his skin, his health, and we'll see if he remains faithful.
And God said,
He is in your hands. But do not touch his life.
Soon after, my body began to decay. Sores covered my skin from head to toe. Fever, chills, itching, pain. A kind of pain that gives no rest even at night. The flesh burned like embers, and the soul like snow sinking into darkness. I sat on ashes, took a piece of broken pottery, and scraped my skin as if trying to peel off my own despair. It was then my wife stood before me. She looked at me with disgust, with pity, with anger, and said,
You still hold on to this faith? Why don't you curse that God and die?
I drew a deep breath with the strength I had left and replied, You speak like someone who has lost their senses. If we accept the good that comes from God, why should we not accept suffering as well? My wife went away, and I stayed. There, alone, trying to remember who I was, trying to remember why I still believed. Days later, my friends arrived, Eliphaz, Bildad, and Zophar. When they saw me, they froze. They tore their clothes, threw dust on their heads, and sat with me on the ground. For 7 days, No one said a single word. 7 days of silence. And in the midst of that silence, my heart began to scream. I stayed silent for 7 days, 7 nights, 7 eternities. My friends were there, sitting with me, saying nothing, and for a while I thought their silence was compassion. But it wasn't. It was judgment disguised as respect. I saw it in their eyes. They didn't understand, and perhaps they didn't even want to. On the 8th day, I couldn't hold it in anymore. I spoke, not to God, not to them. I spoke to the void, like someone bleeding through the mouth. Cursed be the day I was born. Cursed the night they said, "A boy is born." Why didn't I die in the womb? Why was I taken from the arms of death? It would have been better never to have breathed at all. Eliphaz looked at me calmly and answered as one offering poison in a golden cup.
You've always advised others, always had wise words on your lips. And now that it's your turn, you collapse? Does the innocent really suffer like this? Think carefully, Job. God is just. If you're reaping pain, it's because you've sown something wrong.
That cut me deeper than the wounds on my body. I tried to keep my composure, but it was like trying to hold water in my hands. Then I said, "Are you saying I deserve this?" He replied,
I'm saying God corrects those he loves. Why not ask for forgiveness, Job?
Then Bildad joined the conversation.
God does not reject the righteous. He is firm, upright. If your children died, it was because they sinned. But if you are pure, he will lift you up again.
Every word from them was a knife, and with accusation Zophar added,
You talk too much, Job. But if God treated you with the severity you deserve, it would be worse. Repent. Perhaps he will still grant you peace.
I took a deep breath, raised my eyes to heaven, and what came out of me was not theology. It was raw pain. I'm not perfect, but I'm not the monster you describe either. If God is against me, let him tell me. Let him appear. Let him summon me to trial. I want to understand why. I cry out, and he does not answer. I seek, and I only find silence. I walked with him. I was his friend, and now I am dust. The debate went on for days. Words and more words. No comfort, no light. Only accusations, empty counsel, and condemnation disguised as wisdom. And I began to lose my strength. Little by little my voice grew weaker, until my cry came out as a whisper, God, why? I just want to understand. Answer me. Just once. Answer me. But the sky did not open. The wind did not speak. The silence remained heavy, crushing, like a stone upon the chest. And it was at that moment that the heavens fell silent. And my world, too. For days, nothing. No wind, no voice. My friends were already exhausted from trying to convince me. I was exhausted from trying to understand. And the sky? Quiet, as if it were too far away to hear me. Until a whirlwind formed. It came like a breath cutting through everything. The dust rose, and in the midst of the storm, the voice came. Firm, full of glory. No explanations, only questions.
Who is this that darkens my counsel with words without knowledge? Since you want answers, prepare yourself like a man. I will question you, and you will answer me.
My body trembled, my spirit fell silent, and he continued,
Where were you when I laid the foundations of the earth? Tell me if you know. Who set the limits of the sea? Who shut the doors of the ocean when it burst forth like a newborn from the womb?
He spoke, and every word unraveled me from within.
Have you ever commanded the morning? Have you seen the storehouses of the snow? Have you entered the depths of the sea? Have you witnessed the birth of the stars?
I had no answer, only lowered eyes.
Who gives wisdom to the heart? Who gives understanding to the mind? Can you bind the constellations with your own hands? Can you make it rain? Can you feed the lions? Can you teach the eagles to fly?
With each phrase, I shrank a little more. It wasn't about justice. It wasn't about deserving or not deserving. It was about greatness, about the God who is greater than everything and yet still heard me. Then, for the first time since the beginning of the pain, I understood. I didn't understand the reason, but I understood who was in control. I fell with my face to the ground, and I spoke with a broken voice. I have spoken without knowing. I said things I do not understand, things too great for me. Before, I had only heard of you, but now my eyes see you. Therefore, I repent, in dust and in ashes. And the whirlwind dissipated. The sky was still overcast, but inside me, something had changed. I didn't yet have everything back, but I had something greater than everything I had lost: His presence. After God spoke, everything fell silent. But now, it was not a silence of abandonment. It was a silence of reverence, a silence filled with Him. For the first time since the beginning of it all, my soul no longer cried out. It simply bowed. I stayed like that for a while, in dust and ashes, looking at the ground as one who recognizes his own smallness. I asked for nothing. I demanded no explanations. What I needed, I had already received. It wasn't justice, it was presence. But what happened next went beyond anything I could ever imagine. God turned against my accusers. He said they had not spoken with sincerity, that their words were empty, harsh, and that only I, the one who questioned, cried, shouted, but never abandoned, had spoken the truth before Him. Then God commanded my accusers to come to me and offer sacrifices, and I prayed for them. I prayed for those who wounded me with words while I was on the ground. And it was in that moment, exactly when the prayer rose from my broken heart, that the turning point began. God restored everything, and not just as before, but double. The fields began to bloom again. The animals began to multiply. Where there had been ruin, harvest sprang up. New servants came, new tents, new open doors. Friends came. Those who had been silent before now surrounded me with honor. They brought gold, silver, rings, garments. And then children came, 7 sons, 3 daughters, and these daughters were the most beautiful the earth had ever seen. I gave them an inheritance equal to their brothers, because after seeing God, I understood the value of every life. Man or woman, strong or weak, we are all born of the same breath. I lived many years after that. I saw the children of my children. I saw the land yield fruit like never before. But no blessing I received compared to that voice in the whirlwind. Today I understand. Faith is not only trusting when everything is going well, it is standing firm, even when the sky is silent. It is believing when you cannot see, worshiping when everything collapses, and remaining faithful when everything inside you wants to give up. And that is why, even in the midst of the ashes, I was restored.